No, just look at the camera. Okay.
Can you see everybody?
Yeah. Let me just make sure. Can you see them? Did you already started?
Oh yeah, we're good.
All right. Thank you for taking time out of your day so you can hear my informative speech regarding man-made reefs. My name is Philip Bradford, and this is today's program. In Congress in 1984, the National Fishing Enhancement Act, which provided the basis for the Artificial Reef Program, which was spawned by the National Artificial Reef Plan of 1985. The plan cleared the way for government-endorsed artificial reef programs and subsequently the Minerals Management Service Rigs to Reef program. It all began because the Gulf of Mexico does not have a naturally occurring reef system. So conservationists, fishermen, local government, all came together and devised a plan to create artificial reefs for habitat underwater. So how does all this work? Well, after a rig has finished producing oil and gas in the Gulf, they decommission the rigs. Once they are no longer financially feasible to operate, the act of removing them begins. During the process, the leaving of the steel jacks and supports in the water is essentially the rigs to reef program. The decommissioning is accomplished in 4 different ways. One is total removal. Second is a method of what's called tow in place. They remove the rig from the floor, they tow it to a specific location, and it is then settled. The third is a topple in place, and the last method in decommissioning is partial removal of the rig onto the reef. Reef sites have to be predetermined. They have to remove all potential and non-structural material. They cannot interfere with future oil, gas production, as well as fishing. So what happens next? During the decommissioning process, final structural process has been determined, site completion has been taken care of, and the operator has satisfied the U.S. Coast Guard navigational requirements for the structure. Additionally, the state agencies require a permit from the U.S. U.S. Army Corps of Engineering, accepting title, liability, and other regulatory requirements for turning rigs into reefs. Additionally, the structure becomes a part of the Artificial Reef Program that compiles the criteria for the National Artificial Reef Plan. You ask, well, this sounds interesting, but why? So the benefits, several benefits. The state benefits from this plan. The oil and gas companies benefit from this plan. Oil and gas to decommission a rig can take tens of millions of dollars for decommission. These oil and gas companies save tens of millions when they do not have to have a total removal. Yes, the top platform, all production equipment has to be removed. However, the actual structure itself can be remained or placed into a location for the reef. So additionally, from the savings of this program, the state also can benefit when these oil and gas companies provide some of that saving to the state. Additionally, local business, the fishing industry, the scuba industry. When these reefs are developed and created over time, they become great habitat for fishes, any type of aquatic animals. So the fishing industry really gains by having these locations for fishing as well as scuba diving. Not only for the recreational scuba, but also in commercial. They can do training, they can do certifications, as well as, again, recreational, enjoying the reef system and snorkeling. Another benefit, which is pretty amazing, is the ancillary organizations, the fishing stores, the scuba equipment, the hotel and lodging industry that host these tourist anglers for these rigs. Additionally, research has been confirmed by Dr. Milton Love, a research biologist, Marine Science Institute at the University of California at Santa Barbara, that the oil platforms that are created into rigs host a population that is 20 to 50 times greater than the surrounding waters. Pretty impressive. However, the environmental impact on this is pretty impressive. A standard 4-pile rig can contain up to 2 to 3 acres of living habitat for thousands of underwater species. The Bureau of Energy Management estimates that these structures account for around $324 million in revenue and roughly 55,000 jobs. And again, the fishing, scuba industry, as well as the lodging and other activities. I also think the boats, the docks, as well as even the gas companies that are filling up on the boats or paying to have them filled up. However, there are liabilities. The Mineral Management Service does not release operator from liability just because they've decommissioned the rig. They don't just get to leave it in place and be done with it and wash their hands. There is continued and ongoing liability for these companies. In federal waters, the liability needs to be passed to a private entity or another minerals management approved company or service. States also can take on liability if they choose to do so. Navigational mishaps and diving accidents can happen. However, the Gulf of Mexico Rigs to Reef program has not reported any liabilities so far. Critics claim that the primary reason for this operation is the desire to offload the cost and having to do anything with this structure of the equipment, because when a company has to decommission it, they have to take responsibility. They have to do something with all the materials, the top, the bottom, anything below the water, subsea, and as well as at the bottom of the sea. There are debate though. There are some fishermen who oppose this because when they're trolling their nets, they can become snagged and entangled on these submerged reefs, as well as environmentalists stating the continued presence of these rigs can cause harm to the water and the surrounding marine animals. So, in conclusion, the fishing habitats, the shrimps, mussels, recreational fishermen, scuba divers, state governments, oil and gas industries, local businesses all benefit from the Rigs to Reef program. However, the continued effort with those stakeholders, as well as support of everyone, to ensure the program will enjoy its continued success. Is there any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to know why the Gulf doesn't have a natural river.
Very good question. Because of the salinity, is not great enough for the sunlight to hit the bottom, as well as the currents are stronger in the Gulf than they are some of the surrounding waters of the U.S. So additionally during the winter, the waters can reach a low of 50 degrees in the water. It just doesn't provide a conducive environment for naturally occurring reefs. Good question though. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yes. How many rigs to reefs are there?
There are approximately 141 rigs donated to this program at this time. Impressive, isn't it? Anybody else?
Are there requirements on the oil companies to remove the rig?
Yes, there is. There are regulatory government requirements that once a rig is not feasibly operational, they must remove it entirely. And as a matter of fact, and again, that was the first option, entire removal. These are the other three options. However, President Obama recently signed into law just after the Deepwater Horizon rig that within 5 years of the decommission process, something has to be done. Either the total removal or the Rigs to Reef program has to be completed. Great question. Yes, sir.
Are the companies responsible for cleaning the rig before it's submerged, or?
Yes. Any topside has to be cleaned. Again, anything below surface usually does not get cleaned because there's already habitat being created or forming on the bottom. So, good question though. Well, thank you for your time. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. You've been a great audience. Thank you.